So, welcome everyone to the first Spiralogics SkillUp Series. Good morning to those who are joining from Nepal. Good afternoon to those if you're joining from Philippines, and good evening to those who are joining us from the States. Thank you so much for joining us in our first ever Spiralogics SkillUp Series. And the first episode will be on exploring .NET 5. So, without further ado, let me just start today's session. I will be moderating and hosting this session, so that is me, Nisha Podel. Before I let the speakers take over, let me just go over the agenda. So, what we have planned for today. So, we'll be starting with the introduction of the speakers. Then we'll move on to the actual podcast, which is on open discussion on .NET 5. And then we also have a demo for you guys. And then we'll be further moving on to DevOps angle on .NET 5. And then we also have another demo, and then we'll be ending today's session with the future of .NET 5. Let me just quickly introduce our speakers. So first speaker is Aakash Chaudhary. He is a DevOps engineer, and he's been with Spiralogics for over 3 years now. Our second speaker is Arun Thapa. He's a technology manager and solutions architect, and he's been with us Spiralogics for over 9 years, so one of our oldest employees. Then we have Govinda Wagle, who is the IT infrastructure and security manager. And he's also been with us for quite a long time. He's been with Spiralogics for over 7 years now. So these are the speakers for today. Without wasting any time, speakers, you may begin.
So before diving into topic 5, technology that we're going to talk about today, what I'd like to discuss, and on behalf of 28 or 20 to 30% of the people that we have today in this session, that will include QA and project managers who might not know this technology and who are not that much experienced to talk about this. But when I was going through few sessions regarding .NET 5, I found out was the versions that Microsoft is maintaining for this .NET series and the framework that looked really confusing to me, and being a very naive to this technology, what I'd like to know from one of you guys is the brief history about this .NET framework or .NET Core or .NET 5, whatever it is. So, one is that, I guess. That's all.
So that's true. It is really confusing. So we used to have .NET Framework, then we have .NET Core, we have .NET Standard now, the whole new thing .NET 5, right? So it's really confusing, and I don't know how can I explain this to non-.NET developer, but I will try my best. So let me share one screen quickly.
Until I just fix that, um, let me give some of my experience about the .NET over this year, right? Okay. All right. So it's been a while. I mean, it's been from the early phase of my career. I started working on .NET, right? So I remember it was around .NET 2 when I first started my journey, and then it was everything was moving towards the web, and .NET had Microsoft had a really interesting technology called ASP, right? They wanted to move from the ASP to a web form. So if let me explain what web form was. I mean, there were a lot of developers, desktop developers, right, who really loved the program, who loved the .NET framework, right? And they wanted to shift those .NET developers into this web thing, right? So this is called web form then. So they took all those rules about those desktop applications and all those stuff and put it into the web form. So basically, it was abstraction of the web. I mean, right now, when you see web, you see. I mean, you talk about the HTTP and all this stuff, right? Those were everything was abstracted by then. Then they realized that it really worked on the side of the Microsoft, and it was really popular framework back then, right? And what happened is, and the new wave of the technology came. All those other companies started working on other frameworks like MVC, right? And which was more closer to the web. It was more closer to the web, and everyone could understand how MVC worked because regardless the language, regardless the network, it was working exactly what it should be, right? And then Microsoft also shifted towards the MVC, right? And then they came up with the idea of .NET Core, right? Before that, actually, the whole world was shifting toward the mobile apps as well. The wave was a new thing, but mobile apps was also, really new thing. So everyone started investing on that, and I remember that Mono, that was back then it was called Mono, right? It was not a framework, not a framework by itself, but it was a light version of the framework, which was used to develop the Mono framework, which is basically Xamarin. Nowadays we call it Xamarin, right? So they started back then, and then this .NET Core came, right? And a lot of confusion started to because there were a lot of technology, there were a lot of everyone was expecting .NET to work on their smartphone, .NET to work on their let's say watch, right? And it was really confusing for Microsoft. So they started working on how to unify everything into a single place. Aakash will probably um, explain this in much better way later. But the thing is, the whole idea of from the start, from the early days of .NET to right now, it was all aligned to the unifying the whole .NET ecosystem into a single thing. And basically, .NET 5 is the result of that. That all those focus and all those hard work and paid off. And right now, we have .NET 5, which is unified and a single framework that will basically work on each and every devices.
Okay, so what I understood was like when somebody says .NET, what I would understand is it's just for development and developing web applications and maybe mobile applications, but it has made a tremendous progress and now can even build native code through Xamarin, I think, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think it's been making a tremendous progress. So we're going to see something, right?
Yes. So too many jargons with .NET thing. Okay, so let me try to explain it in new way. So first, as Arun said, we had .NET framework. So .NET framework is nothing. It's only a runtime, so it's just nothing. And we have ASP.NET web application on top of .NET. We have this ASP.NET web application on top of .NET framework that helps us to make web applications, and same is WinForm. So these two are used to make used to create web applications, and this one is used to create desktop applications. So we also use some of these technologies. So this podcast might go public, so I will not take the project name, but I will take the name of QA. So Safal Dai and Niket Dai used to work on this platforms. And but the downside was this always requires Windows, so you cannot run it on Linux, you cannot run it on Mac or some other devices. uh, and then Microsoft decides to create .NET Core. So let me go back. This .NET framework is used to create web application and desktop applications that needs Windows, and then they created .NET Core. This again helps to create Windows application, desktop application, but this can run on any platform. Maybe it is Linux, Mac, or even IoT devices and all. So then there is new thing called .NET Standard. So .NET Standard is nothing but a set of libraries or APIs, or let's say pre-written codes uh, that can be used in either in .NET Framework or .NET Core. So if anything that can be that you need to use in and maybe in .NET Framework or .NET Core, you can create a project on .NET Standard, or else you can use .NET Framework or .NET Core. So, so and then okay, so we can use .NET Core to create any application for any platform, maybe web, desktop, mobile, or anything. So we can create platform for application for any platform. And then, so just like Govinda has asked, so are you a .NET developer? Is not a complete question for now. So if I say I'm a .NET developer, you will probably ask what in .NET, maybe mobile or IoT or web or desktop. So Microsoft decides to merge everything in .NET 5. So it's no more web or app or blah blah blah. So you know .NET 5, you know everything. You can from desktop to AI and ML. And
Okay, so what you're saying is this .NET 5 will clear the confusion that I have when I see .NET Core, .NET Framework, all these confusions that I had will be clear if I start using this .NET 5.
Maybe not. So probably yes, because .NET 5 is they are not to replace .NET Framework or .NET Standard. They are two separate things. Microsoft will still support .NET Framework, but it will not display any new features. So all the new features will be migrated to .NET 5. So yes, if you say I'm a .NET 5 developer, it's okay. If you say I'm .NET Framework developer, then maybe.
Okay, so what if I start using this .NET 5 right away without having prior knowledge of this .NET Core and .NET other stuff?
So that's something totally different. So .NET 5 is not totally unique to other .NET things. So some features are from ASP.NET MVC, some features are from .NET Core. In fact, .NET 5 is nothing but new release of .NET Core 3.1. They just changed name to .NET 5. They didn't do it .NET Core 3.2. They just changed the name to .NET 5 for as a preparation for .NET 6. So .NET 5 will not get long-term support. This is for 1 year only, and with the .NET 6 will get long-term support, and this is the preparation for .NET 6.
Okay,
So I want to add something on that, right? So your confusion was whether your confusion will be clear when you started working on .NET. Actually, in a way, it is, because if you see that previous slide, right? Everything is based on each and every platform is the base of the platform is .NET 5, right? And that means whatever piece of code you write in one particular platform will be working on another. That is not. If you write some code on Xamarin, right, it will not work on the probably older version of the .NET framework because I mean the APIs that Xamarin that Mono uses may not be available in the .NET framework itself, right? So basically that to avoid that they introduce that .NET standard, right? And again to make it even better, I mean because now we have .NET 5. So to answer your question, if you start right now, don't worry about anything else. You start working on .NET 5 and everything will be aligned to your way. That's the answer.
Okay, so over 5 million developers we have using this .NET framework or .NET technology. So since I don't have that development experience, and we have around 40 to 50% of the people who lack that experience as well. So what would you like to suggest me or even our QAs if they want to start exploring this technology? What would you like to suggest them to refer to that they can start their journey with the .NET?
Okay, so yeah, so there are plenty of things. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, right? Before when we started our journey, the first confusion was what is .NET, because there are so many Javas and all these stuff, right? So now, since those things are clear, right? I mean, you can choose any of the things that the .NET can do. Like there are plenty of things, right? There are you can work on ML, machine learning. You can work on mobile phones, you can work on web services, APIs, beautiful applications, right? And all of this stuff. Choose one and jump in right away. This is the documentation is much more clear now, right? And probably it's the best time to start to work on that. That's all I need to say. I mean, you want to add something?
In fact, the Stack Overflow surveys for 2020 says .NET Core 3.1 is most loved framework.
Exactly.
So
It's the most loved.
yeah, people used to hate Microsoft, right? So only enterprise organizations used to follow .NET to build their applications, and other people used to hate Microsoft because of so many reasons. But with the release of .NET Core 3.1, everything has changed. So,
Yeah, and one more thing. So since it's open source right now, right? And if you see the same stat, Aakash, I mean, the most commutes and most community engagement of any open source project right now is .NET Core is in the top of the list. That means community is going bigger and bigger.
Okay, so you mentioned that there's a version .NET Core 3.1. I didn't find that much of in first when it was released, but when it comes to .NET 5, I see each and every there is conference held for this. There is a release. Many of the renowned organizations are talking about this. So, what do you think the changes or the features or whatever the stuff there is making this .NET 5 so much in hype?
Okay, so there are plenty of things. I mean, where to start? So, so we have to. I mean, probably we have to streamline. I mean, I'll talk about few of those things, and Aakash can add on a few of those. So I'll start with the web application and web API. So it's not new, but thing is, .NET when you start working on .NET 5 and creating a web API project, let's say web API project, an open API, or let's say we used to say Swagger. This can be interchangeably used. We can use open API with Swagger with open API. So it has .NET when you start create a application.
So I used to use Node.js and Swagger in there as well. So for those who don't know what Swagger is, maybe Swagger is the documentation that we use for the APIs, right?
Okay. So yeah, so it's not only documentation. So documentation is the part of it, right? Beautiful looking documentation is one part of it, but there are a lot of things that can be done using the open API or less Swagger. So one of the examples is CodeZen. There is a beautiful feature called CodeZen, right? You can simply so basically first
Okay, so
yeah.
the Swagger that I know from Node.js and the one you are talking about, those are the same thing, right?
This is exactly the same. So the basic fundamental of the Swagger or open API is a JSON file that is called what we call Swagger.json file. So that is a definition file which can be utilized in any programming language, right? It's not for programming. Since it's in JSON, it can be used in any programming language. But the cool thing is it gives us a lot of other features like CodeZen. I was talking about CodeZen. So if you use CodeZen and your API supports with open API, you can simply generate a web client. You know what I mean? I mean, creating a client would be a pretty much time-consuming task, right? It can automatically generate the client. So that can be one of the important aspects, right? And another aspect is, of course, we cannot ignore the fact that Swagger had made a lot of, developers' life easy because it automatically generates the documentation. It gives us the insight about what that particular API can consume and what it returns, right? All those stuffs are built in .NET 5. So if you create a web API, it will be part of your web application by default. You don't need to write a lot of code.
Okay, so I think from what I understood, it would be a lot easier for our QAs as well to test those APIs, right? If we introduce this Swagger into that. Exactly. And you have something to add on this?
So Arun, I said pretty much about web and API thing, and we do have new updates in desktop applications and Blazor as well. So you must have seen something in your life. One of the requirements is not available. Please install any version of .NET or something. So while installing any applications, and the problem is solved now. So if we create .NET application, .NET desktop application, the machine does not need to have .NET framework by default. So it can run on its own. That's called single click feature, right? So we can create .NET desktop application that contains .NET framework or .NET 5 in itself, and we can host that application anywhere in cloud. So you must have installed Google Chrome, and that just installed from the web, right? You download some small size of .exe file, and it does everything. So we can create similar applications using .NET 5. And another thing is they have pretty much focused on Blazor in .NET 5. So uh, it is event-driven new tech. So we can imagine web application without JavaScript, right? So maybe single page application or MVC5 or .NET Core, we always use JavaScript, but now it is possible to create web UI with the knowledge of C#. So that's the new question.
Yeah, I would add one thing. So when you talk about the web, right? It's been a while that gRPC. You have heard about that? gRPC.
Yeah, how a little bit about it.
Yeah, basically it's a new way to write an API, right? It was around 2015 when Google created it, right? So gRPC .NET had also implemented gRPC, right? Probably, and it is the one of the fastest implementation. I mean, let's say, I mean, it's on the right now, it's on the second, right? So if you think of writing the gRPC APIs, right? You can think of, I mean, the .NET will be the one of the preferred way to do that, right? So since this is one of the fast implementation, we can consider the gRPC .NET when using gRPC. So
Okay, so you mentioned that there's unified libraries or something. Could you explain what that
yeah,
is?
so we have already discussed about that. So unified library, as in, I mean, you don't need so when we talk about the runtime developer, when we talk about our .NET application working running in a single machine, right? It used to require a lot of dependency, a lot of additional things, right? Right now it is bundled up into the single thing. So everything is bundled into the single thing, and that has some disadvantages. We can discuss it later. But the thing is, it has made a lot of things simpler. So that's the unified thing.
Okay, thank you guys. So we also have a small demo as well. You can share your screen and start the demo.
Basically, I'm going to show few new features that is available in C#. So let's just create a new project. Just to let you know, guys, I have already installed .NET 5, and my Visual Studio version is 16.8. So you need at least 16.8 for .NET 5. So I'll create a console app. Yes.
Okay, so version 16.5 and above is a must for this .NET 5.
16.8.
16.8.
Yes. Okay. So first feature we have is top level statement. This is simple application that prints hello world, just one line statement, but we have to, we have to print the statement, but we have so many things there. So 12 lines of code just to print this, and I believe .NET is now more inspired with Python to make it readable code. So usually Python is called as a readable code. It's similar to English language. So what we can actually this is the starting point. Main is always the starting point of .NET, and what we can do now is we just remove this, we just remove this. Okay, it's showing it, and because the project is in .NET Core 3.14 now, right? So my project is in .NET Core 3.1, so I need to move it to .NET 5. I just go here, select .NET 5, save, and boom, my project is in .NET 5 now. Okay, so the error has gone, and when I run the application, so it works.
So Akash, how about that namespace thing? If you have a namespace or if you have a
Yep. So that's a great question. So how does it know the entry point, right? What if we write the same thing in another file? So what happens is it does not have something. Okay. So when browsing compiler finds CS file with no namespace, with no void main, then it take that file as the entry point. Okay. And you cannot write multiple same thing in multiple files. It will simply so build error. And I don't know what in where this will help, but I believe if we have multiple small applications for microservices or a small console application, this will be a great feature. This will be great index.
Okay, so what we're doing right now is just importing a module, and then just start diving into the
Yeah.
functionality. Right?
Yeah.
So that would there's one thing that I've found after looking into this is even for the development time, it would.
So the workaround was to create to make it something like private. So this is available. So this set of properties available only in this class, and then boom, we have ready. But I cannot assign this as well. So what we need to do is to create constructor, pass all the values through parameters, and then assign. So we have really cool features. Let me just remove this private thing. I can just write init here, right? So instead of setter, I am just writing init. What it allows is I can assign value for the first time, but I cannot change it. So this remaining list is immutable now. I think this is a really good feature. And do you have any conclusion regarding this?
Okay, so yeah, I have one question. So you mentioned that making it private wouldn't allow other classes to access this variable, right?
Yeah.
That has been there for every other language. So what is so different about this?
Because we don't need to use that now. So we don't need to make it private. We just write init and everything is done. So if you make the property private, you need to create constructor. You need to pass all the parameters and you need to assign those using constructor. But we don't need all those things now. Behind the scene it is same, but we can just write init and boom, we can create object, assign it, and it is immutable. We cannot do that now.
Okay.
So, I think this is really good feature. So we have faced serious problem just because of this. So some variables should not be changed, but it was changing because of some.
Do you remember any scenario or
Yeah.
situation?
So we have one project that is again claim management system, and we need to clone the case. Clone the case for some reasons, but while cloning, some I don't know, but one parameter should not change, right? And everything, so the case number, everything should change, and date will change. So we just add new to that field, and we just forget that one field should not be changed, and we just change everything that was so difficult. That bug took us so long to find.
Okay, so this is one of the features that we have, especially for the developers. I think it's very useful for them if we know how to use this. And even I think even from the security perspective,
Exactly.
it's much more useful
Yes.
for us to use in the project.
Okay. So, so this is for one property only. So let's say uh, the my name will not change. My address might get changed. So I don't know the properties. So let's say we have tons of properties, hundreds of properties. That should not be changed with time, right? So one of the way is to make everything in it. Everything we can make everything in it, and the other easy way is to create a record. So Arun, I must know about record because this is one of the big hype Microsoft is creating about the record.
It's a simple thing, but it's really useful.
And it okay. Record is nothing but a class. So what I can do is okay.
Okay, so go ahead and make that ready. I'll answer all these. So I've been hearing this about Xamarin a lot, and believe that it is 99.99% somehow um, in cope with the native code. So would you please elaborate how
Yeah,
this Xamarin
there are a lot of things going on in the Xamarin, right? So, so thing is, we have two options to write a really native, native code, native application, or just write a cross-platform application, right? So Xamarin Form is an option for writing a cross-platform thing, right? And the one we're talking about is that Xamarin, native, right? Native thing is we call it Xamarin.Android and Xamarin.iOS that we can write a native, a completely native application, right? So what happened here is, I would want to add one thing. I just had a conversation with Xamarin developer Prajit a few days back, right? And we started one of the projects in Xamarin, right? And the one thing he was worried about was the app size, right? When you create a simple application, the app size increases dramatically, right? So one of the concerns was that, and another concern was the load time. When you first time when you start it's called cold start, right? When you first time launch the application, it was really slow, right?
and that is why I think it was given a name called Star.
Right, exactly. So thing is, it is not better in the native option, right? But let's focus on Xamarin Forms because that's the I mean that's the flagship thing for the Microsoft, right? Xamarin Forms they just launched Xamarin 5 few months back. It is a lot. It is improved a lot, right? But what next? The UI is more beautiful now, right? And performance has improved. But what next, right? So the next thing is, right now we are in a .NET 5, right? Hold on, a few months. It will be a .NET 6 will be released in a few months, right? And the new thing, MAUI or MAUI, or they call it MAUI. I don't know how they come up with that pronunciation, but they call it MAUI. So they are launching .NET MAUI in .NET 6. So one of the most interesting, I'm really excited about that is the load time. Load time has improved significantly, right? And another option was website. They have trimmed since they have started working on that in .NET 5. So even in .NET 6, I'm hoping that it will be reduced significantly. So those are the few things that we need to be excited about the Xamarin.
okay. I think
Sorry.
I think this is I must show this. We have used something like this so many times. So it's just status. So if ID is less than 0, the status of claim might be draft case. If ID equal to 0, it's new case. If 1 is pending case, if 2 overdue case, if greater than 2, then close case. So we are using this in many applications, right? But now we have better way to write this thing. So we don't need to write all those if else, if else, if else, and all these things. We can simply do this. So we need to assign value in status text by looking into ID. So if ID is less than 0, is draft case. If ID is equal to 0, then new case, and so on. And if ID is greater than 2, is close case. So why is this interesting? Is, let's say, the range. What I write here is, if ID is greater than 1, then something, right? Something. So say, okay. So if the ID is greater than 1, then this case is fulfilled, and again this case and this case is fulfilled as well, right? So it is showing error in this both things. So we can simply depend upon Visual Studio for the ID check. So it will all the margin are is take care will be taken by Visual Studio, right? And apart from that, we have is, and, or, and not operator, the similar to SQL Server. So we used to have claim equal, if claim equal to null. Now we can write if claim is null. In addition to that, we can even write claim if claim is not null. So similar to SQL Server. So I believe SQL Server developer will be more excited with this feature.
Okay. I was going through these conferences that I told you guys earlier, and I just wanted to know what would be for the DevOps especially, and what would the DevOps personnel would need to know, or if they have to deploy these .NET 5 applications on the server. So I don't know I don't know this in much detail, but what I know is there is not going to be much change. But the one of the benefit that we will be getting is the infrastructure. Infrastructure wise, we can deploy this application to any OS systems, right? So even from the business perspective, if we talk about, then Linux servers are much more cheaper than Windows servers, and we can deploy this application with a single line of command. I just saw the command, but I didn't get a chance to actually execute and deploy it to the server. But looking at other projects which were developing, like Node.js and other .NET Core 3.1, I would assume that .NET 5 will be a lot more easier to deploy because of the development, because of the build style that we can incorporate into the application. For instance, we can deploy this application in two ways. One would be integrating the dependencies into the application itself, and the other one would be let the application take the variables from the server. Yeah, right. So we can go with both the options. We can choose the better, which one is better for us. So even for the performance perspective, what I got to know was it is 7 times faster than Node.js. Oh my God. I'm quite familiar with Node.js, and because of asynchronous nature and built on V8 engine or something like that, it was pretty much fast. And I even know some of the games that were developed in Node.js. And now .NET 5 is 7 times faster. So it's kind of shocking. I don't know if it is faster or not, but even Microsoft says it's 7 times faster. But I'm really going to dive into this technology and get an idea of what it is actually, even from the DevOps perspective, and even for from the dev perspective, QA perspective, everything is going to change if we start using this .NET 5. Right? So yes,
Yeah, so on that note, right, I mean, I don't want to make things look, I mean, more than what it is, but things, yes, it is faster, right? It is a faster, there might be some benchmark, there might be some use case that, I mean, that particular result was from some certain kind of result, right? I mean, certain kind of scenario, right? We need to also consider that. But thing is, it was always faster. So one thing is, it was always faster, and it is more faster now because they have implemented the app training concept, right? You know that, right? App training.
Yeah, yeah. I know a little bit about it. Would like me to?
Yeah, of course. If you know
app training.
That's always better.
Sorry guys, I'm very new to this, but still I'm challenging myself to describe this app training. So when we're building this app .NET 5 application, there is an option which says app training.
Yeah.
So what it does is, if you have any modules, for instance, Aakash was saying that it was using system module, right?
Yeah.
So if there is no use of that module in the application, but somehow you imported it and left it there, then if we use this feature of app training, then what it does is during the build time, it will discard, or it will omit that modules and build a new fresh application with only necessary modules within the application that we need to use. Did I say it right?
Exactly. So that's from the developer perspective, right? I mean, we're talking about from the framework perspective also, right? They have simply removed removed all the unnecessary things that might not be necessary. So that way, an app is a lot smaller and a lot faster nowadays.
Yes. Okay, even on that command that I saw to build this application, if we mention simply a Linux or some environment, it is going to build an exe file for us, or whatever the executable that we need to run this environment.
Yes, it's a single click.
Yes. What was that?
Single click function of Spiralogics.
Okay, yeah, that is pretty much I have from the DevOps perspective. I'm still trying to get into the details.
So are you excited?
Really excited, but I'm still not believing it is seven times better than
so let me tell you something that I have read. So while releasing .NET Core for the first time at Microsoft, that is .NET Core 1, they were comparing performance with Node.js, right? So, and while they moved to .NET Core 3.1, they are not even comparing to Node.js. They are just comparing to .NET Core 1. So with .NET 5, most of the benchmarks are compared with .NET Core 3.1, not with Node.js. So it's pretty much fast. So let's just say we have used the two-string method, we have used for each method, we have used dictionary and so on. So just the performance between .NET Core 3.1 and .NET 5, we don't need to do anything. We just change framework. All the codes are same. The applications are faster by 3 times. Just between .NET Core 3.1 and .NET 5.
Yeah, that is from if we talk about the application, web application,
Yeah.
right? So even for the APIs, I got to know about this gRPC, remote processor call or something like that, and it uses HTTP2, right?
Yes.
So even from the security perspective, if you think about from the security perspective, what HTTP2 that we can use in this .NET 5 does is it uses the binary format to transmit messages in the network. Right now, HTTP transmits those messages in the network in text format. So using this gRPC and HTTP2 combined, what we can achieve is the binary message in the binary format. So that makes a lot secure endpoints for the application as well.
So not
So did I say it right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Not only secure, it can improve performance as well. So I'll share the link. I'll share the link. So what we are using is JSON. We use JSON to pass the data between servers, right? So Microsoft has built one demo application.
Yeah.
You can use JSON to fetch data, and you can again use gRPC to fetch data, and you can compare the result, and you can compare the times.
Yeah.
You can just
So thing
fetch
is,
10 lakhs of data, and yeah.
So one thing you need to understand about the gRPC is, right, it is more closer to machine, right? STP is more closer to humans, right? And now STP2 is more closer to machine. So I mean, there are, I mean, both I mean, perspective. See, I mean, it is a bit harder to implement, right, for the developer, but it is really it will really benefit from the performance. I mean, so if you talk about web services, right, and we're talking about web service and having the modules, I mean, deployed in a distributed containers or some other stuff, right? I mean, same whole application will be breakdown into different modules and will be deployed on multiple places, right? And the main important thing about the web services is the communication between those modules, right? Right. Currently, initially we use STP, right? That makes a lot of, I mean, the having established a connection and STP stateless, right? You have to introduce yourself every time, right? So there are a lot of drawbacks on STP, which is be overcome by the STP2 and gRPC. So basically, to answer your question, gRPC is one of the fastest implementation. One of the fastest implementation. .NET has the first implementation of gRPC, and it will be benefited by a lot of things. One of the thing area will be web services.
I'd like to ask one question, Arun. So I've been hearing about this gRPC from, I guess, 2016 or 17,
Yes.
and it is secure, it is fast. So do you think it will replace all of JSON? Do you think it is the revolution or the whole new future? And do you think, what is the future of gRPC?
I don't know. It's a really tricky question. It's really tricky because a gRPC is not fast in all the scenarios, right? Let's say you just need to ping. Let's say you call API and you just need to reply your simple text, right? So that's basically one of the most simplest implementation of web API, and which is sometimes we have to do that as well, right? If that's the case, then gRPC will be slower, if you understand me correctly. But if we are talking about the millions lines of code and lot of processing, right, and gRPC will be faster, right? So one of the interesting thing is, while using gRPC, you don't need to. It will establish a communication channel, right? You don't need to introduce yourself to the server every time you go to the server, right? So that's
So by yourself, you mean the browser, right?
Yes, of course, yes. So that means, so if you are using the world's simplest API, then gRPC would be too much of data processing and complexity.
So I think I can relate this with async and await. So .NET created hype with async and await in those time as well, and I used to think if async and await is more faster, more secure, why not just use async await in every function?
Yeah.
But it will. But there is a whole different world between those. Yeah, I get it.
So that's my answer, and I'm not saying, denying that, gRPC is the future. It's the future, but not in each and every case. That's my point.
Okay, so for Spiralogics, we have most of the pillar projects that we have are in .NET, right? So if we have to start making those changes so that we can cope up with .NET 5, what would that be?
Yes, so if we're talking, most of our new applications are in .NET 3.1, right? So from moving from 3.1 to .NET 5 is not that big deal, right? So of course we need to understand, we need to respect the stability of the client application, right? We have to do that. But the thing is, is pretty much straightforward. We can do that right away, right? And moving ahead, if we start a new project, let's say tomorrow, right? I would definitely prefer to go with .NET 5 because there is no point going writing a code in .NET 3, right? And .NET 5 offers everything that .NET 3 offers, plus a lot of performance improvement. So I mean, there is no brainer. So we have to start. I mean, whenever possible, we have to start migrating our application from .NET 3 to .NET 5.
So let me add something which refers to Spiralogics. Microsoft has built one open source project called something called Try project, right? So
Time.
no Try, no Try project, and that's a console application. You just give path to your existing application to that application, and that application will create a report that might get broken or that you need to change to move to .NET 5. So I think that's really great project. And regarding Spiralogics, everyone is well aware that we are using DevExtreme, right? So we almost all, not almost, every project is every .NET project is using DevExpress or DevExtreme, and it's been around only a month that .NET 5 is released, but DevExpress 20.1.5, yeah, 20.1.6 supports .NET 5, and it was released before .NET 5 was released, right? So it was released somewhere in between mid-July. That is way ahead before the .NET 5 is released. And they have also mentioned they have started working to build control UI for .NET Swagger. So, okay, I mean, that's really great.
That makes sense. So what next? Do you have any question, Govinda?
I would have a lot of questions if I knew what this is, but I'll definitely dive into this and come up with more intelligent questions. Some of the developers who are in this session might already think why Govinda is asking such dumb questions. But sorry guys, it's my knife because of my knife-ness on this technology. So I've asked these questions. Yeah, so I have one question, but it's about the future of .NET 5. I think
As of now, we have already discussed about the way, we have already discussed about Open API, right? And we have also discussed that, I mean, we must include something that might be interested for not just developer, but also other people, right? So I'll be trying to include one of the feature, one of the tools called Httprepl that will be basically used to paste the web API that supports Open API. So I'll be including that as well. So not just for developer, it will be interesting for hopefully the QAs and other people as well. So all right, so let me share my screen. I hope it is here. Let's just create a new project. So please to note that I've already installed .NET 5 and my Visual Studio is already upgraded to 16.8. Right? So let's just start create a new project. Right? I'll choose a ASP.NET Core web application. All right. So I'll call it a demo app. All right. Let's just create one. All right. So now here comes the interesting stuff. So I'll choose .NET 5. Right? And I'll create a simple web API. And thing is, I mean, definitely there is option to configure it for the STPS. I'll choose that, keep that. And one thing you need to notice is this enable web API support. Right?
is .NET 5.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it's a .NET Core. .NET 5 is .NET Core 5. So, all right. So far so good, right? Yeah. Let's create one. So basically, what we did, we create a new application that supports Open API. That's all. Nothing fancy. So you can see I have created one demo app, right? That is pretty much. Let's try to run it before I show you what are things inside that application, right? Let me try to run that application. All right.
Okay, so the default route is Swagger.
Yes, that is what I'm trying to say. So I created a new application and I haven't made any changes to the application, right?
Yeah.
So it is supposed to be the landing page should supposed to be a Swagger UI. So this is a new thing, right? Now by default my application uses Swagger UI, and this might not be a big deal for some of the people, right? Who already knows that how to implement the Swagger thing, but the good thing is it's already implemented. So let's see what are the things that .NET, I mean .NET 5 includes. So let's go into the startup CS, right? We can see few line of codes like Swagger, add Swagger gen, and another line of code is, I mean, Swagger UI, use Swagger UI, right? These two things are all already built in the web API. So that the thing that I mentioned you earlier, right? And let's go into the packages. There are pretty much things. There are JW beer, and so pretty much. I mean, there is a very few things that has been included in this dependencies, right? Let's go into things. Yeah. So this swashbuckle, right? So swashbuckle.asp.NET code is a thing that is enabling all everything, right? So this is by default included in the .NET Web API project, all right? So that's the thing. So what else? So if for the non-developer people, right? What this thing enable is, I mean, basically it's a if you go into the code, there is a one controller which is already pretty written, right? This is the only controller that we have. This is the only API that we have, which returns some random weather forecast, right? So so for the non-developers, right? I mean, I'll give them an opportunity to how to explore Swagger UI. So before that, let me create um, one of the new API that will simply return the post method. I'll create one post method that will simply return the weather forecast that we post implementation, right? So this will simply return um, okay, and with the okay, it will simply return the data. That's it, and we have to call it post. I almost forget that. HTTP post, right? That's it. So what we did is we simply that's it, right? So I just created a simple post method that will return the weather forecast that we supply to it, right? That's simple thing. Let's go into the implementation again. Um, all right. So if you see this, I mean, there is a new post method an implementation API that we included just right now, and there is an option called tryout. You can also simply input that and execute it, and like this is the response, and it returned whatever we supply to it, right? This is the implementation, right? And so this is the basic implementation, testing the API using this Swagger UI, right? I'll quickly show you how to do that. The same thing in the Ripple, right? So there is a okay. So there is a GitHub page called Spiralogics. I'll show that later. But if we download that and if we install that, what we can do is let me clear this screen. Let me clear, start new CMD. Let's call it .NET to list. See, .NET .NET. So if you see, I've already installed the .NET REPL, right? So this tool, what this tool does, it is provide a new way to test the web application. web API, right? Let's just copy this URL and let's just try to connect http and let's just try to connect, right? So it is now connected. If you see the URL, just like the normal directory, it is connecting to the web URL, right? Let's try to figure out what it includes. dir is a simple Windows command, right? It simply shows the list of the API that we have right now. So this is get and post that we discussed earlier, right? So all right, so this is all possible due to the Open API. Since we check that Open API support, right? So this is why it is showing all those reports. So simply, I mean, let's say get, let's say cd weather.
So this HTTP report we are talking about is kind of a postman, but console based.
Exactly. It's a lot simpler implementation, right?
Okay,
So
I
if
think
you
we
see,
got the gist. So since we are running out of time, maybe we should move on to the next session.
okay, well, that's
The tool is HTTP report.
Let me allow to run one command, one last command, all right? So we are already in the weather forecast, and we can simply do get and boom. All the data. I think
Okay, so
it.
the
I
tool
mean,
is HTTP repl, and I think it's a very good tool for QA as well to test it out and to crawl the URLs or methods that we have in the application. Right? So next I have is, since we are talking about the technology, and would be the better person other than our Saunak Ranjitkar, CTO of Spiralogics, to talk about the future of .NET 5.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining the call today, and thank you to the organizers and the speakers. Wonderful job. I surely learned a lot from you guys today, and I'm sure everyone did as well. First, I would like to say is, as Spiralogics, we are in business of building solutions, right? We are not like, Microsoft, where we're building the technology itself. What we are doing is, with the help of the technology, we are making the lives of the people easier and better, right? So that's where we are at, is building the solutions. And all the technology that we have in hand are the tools that we use to make things better. And that's why Spiralogics keeps a very close eye on the development of new technologies around, to make sure that we have adequate tools to use when delivering our solutions. So basically, we do not reinvent the wheels, but we make sure that we have the best wheels that we put in the car that we build. Right? So that's where it is about. And as a programmer myself, I get mesmerized with new technologies that come in and all those things. So at Spiralogics, you might know we use .NET a whole lot. So definitely .NET carries a higher weight, but we use Java, PHP, MeanStack, Swift, and all those technologies as well. So we do not say like, hey, we have to stick to one particular technology. It's like, what's fit for the project, we use that. Now, being said that, one thing that I really feel is like, as a programmer myself, and I started with QBasic, GW Basic, DBase 3++, COBOL, and all those things from Java, .NET, PHP, whatnot, right? But the foundation is the same, but the new things come up. That's why it is very important for us to learn about these new frameworks so that we have latest and greatest tools that we have in our hand to build our solutions. So as our team is a very talented pool of people who have a very in-depth knowledge about the foundations of software development, I don't see any problem moving towards .NET 5. right? And one of the things that I really liked and I learned from our team today is .NET is easier to .NET 5 particularly is easier to transition. It's faster to use, and it's and lot easier to adapt to as well. And the other thing that I was really excited about with this new technology or new tool that coming into place is it's giving a single platform or a single framework for different domains that we use, like web, mobile, IoT, AI, cloud, gaming, and all those things. And as you guys might have noticed, Spiralogics is not only construed inside the enterprise applications. We're expanding our wings. We are going towards mobile development. We are going towards IoTs. We are going towards cloud and all that, and mobile, of course. So this comes to us at a very nice place. So it looks very promising. .NET 5 looks very promising. Especially inside Spiralogics, it seems like